Denmark's prime minister insisted on Monday that Greenland is not for sale. According to Associated Press, Mette Frederiksen also called for a robust response from her European Union partners should US President Donald Trump put tough tariffs on Europe. She was speaking after Trump said he would press ahead with his threat to take control of the island. Frederiksen said she has great support from her EU partners on the fact that everybody has to respect the sovereignty of all national states in the world, and that Greenland is today a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It's part of our territory and it's not for sale. Greenland, home to a large US military base, is an autonomous territory of Denmark, a longtime US ally. Last month, Trump left open the possibility that the American military might be used to secure Greenland, as well as the Panama Canal. "We need Greenland for national security purposes," he said. She acknowledged US concerns about security in the Arctic region, where Russia and China have been increasingly active. "I totally agree with the Americans that the High North, that the Arctic region is becoming more and more important when we are talking about defense and security and deterrence," Frederiksen said. She added that the US and Denmark could have stronger footprints in Greenland, in security terms. "They are already there and they can have more possibilities," she said, underlining that Denmark itself can also scale up its security presence. "If this is about securing our part of the world, we can find a way forward," Frederiksen said. Last week, her government announced a roughly 14.6 billion kroner agreement with parties including the governments of Greenland and the Faroe Islands to improve capabilities for surveillance and maintaining sovereignty in the region. It would include 3 new Arctic naval vessels, 2 additional long-range surveillance drones and satellite capacity, the Defense Ministry in Copenhagen said.
I think we have been very clear from the Kingdom of Denmark, with great support from the European partners and the European Union, that everybody has to respect the sovereignty of all national states in the world, and that Greenland is today a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It's a part of our territory, and it's not for sale. The chairman, the leader of Greenland, has been very clear that they are not for sale. I totally agree with the Americans that the High North, that the Arctic region is becoming more and more important when we're talking about defense and security and deterrence. And it is possible to find a way to ensure stronger footprints in Greenland. They are already there, and they can have more possibilities. And at the same time, we are willing to scale up from the Kingdom of Denmark. And I think NATO is the same. So if this is about securing our part of the world, we can find a way forward. There are many reasons why we are one European Union, and one of the reasons for that is that we are willing to help each other and to stick together. And I will never support the idea of fighting allies, but of course if US puts tough tariffs on Europe, we need a collective and robust response. Thank you.
Ukrainian armed forces have deployed a US-made 155mm high-precision laser-guided M712 Copperhead projectile on Russian troops in Kherson region. The video capturing the Ukrainian strike on concrete shelters of Russian occupiers were circulated in social media on Saturday. Earlier in November, the M712 Copperhead was deployed to destroy a communication tower to the east of Sudzha town in Russia's Kursk region. 3 rounds of ammunition was used to strike the facility, and the shooting was conducted from the M777 howitzer. It is not yet known from what sources and in what quantity the Ukrainian Defense Forces could have received the M712 Copperhead for use against the Russian army. However, the very option of using guided munitions with laser illumination to destroy enemy targets has its own prospects, especially against the backdrop of the advisory's active use of electronic warfare, according to Defense Express publication. Created during the Cold War and designed to destroy fortifications and armored vehicles, the M712 Copperhead is a high-precision, laser-guided 155mm caliber artillery projectile. M712 Copperhead aims at target using a laser beam. The firing range is in the range from 3 to 16 kilometers. The mass of the projectile itself is 62.4 kilograms. Serial production of the M712 Copperhead started in 1978.
Just recently, the Kremlin threatened to freeze Ukraine and Europe, blackmailing the world by cutting off gas. But fate decreed otherwise. Now Russians themselves are suffering from the cold, faced with destroyed public utilities infrastructure and complete indifference from the authorities. Russian media writes, on January the 29th, about 350 buildings in Novosibirsk were left without heat, including apartment buildings, schools and social facilities. The worst situation was in Oktyabrsky, 229 disconnected buildings, and Kirovsky districts, 114 buildings. It is currently 13 degrees in the city, but local residents are forced to sit in cold apartments, wrapping themselves in blankets and warming themselves with heaters. The official reason is scheduled repairs. However, people no longer believe in the officials' excuses since the outages occur regularly. The authorities and utility services promised to restore heat by the night of January the 30th, but it is difficult to believe these promises. A similar situation is repeated every week. Instead of repairing networks and updating infrastructure, Russian authorities are spending billions of dollars on the war against Ukraine. As a result, even million-strong cities in Russia are facing the collapse of housing and utilities, and the population silently suffers, supporting the Kremlin's policies even when they are freezing in their apartments. Novosibirsk has not received a winter readiness passport. Rostekhnadzor has identified more than 50 serious violations. City authorities say the energy company has spent only 680 million rubles out of the 1.5 billion allocated for heating network repairs, and the promised work has not been completed. At the same time, the Siberian generating company admits that the mass accidents are caused by critical wear of pipelines. However, there is not enough money for modernization because the Kremlin is throwing resources at the war and not at its own citizens. While the Kremlin tells Russians about its victory over the West, promises new military successes and continues to send billions to the front, ordinary citizens are freezing in their apartments. The irony of fate. Russia itself has found itself in the situation that it so threatened Ukraine and Europe, so there is dissatisfaction in Russian society against Putin. The illusion of a quick victory, which leads to more popular support for the war, is also capable of turning against the Kremlin, especially as Moscow pursues a long war in Ukraine. This disillusionment on its own is unlikely to trigger the regime's collapse. Most Russians have extensive experience and are quite adept in adapting to new lows, and the need to find an explanation that keeps them in their comfort zone helps many cling to propaganda myths.